I found that when I was growing up, I didn't learn things like leadership, negotiation, emotional intelligence. I think much of that is very important, actually, not in just being an entrepreneur, but also to succeed in the corporate world.
It is not relevant.
Entirely.
A lot of things entirely not relevant. I've been teaching for almost 4 decades now, and it has not changed. So many children are calling school prison.
Lazy, no attention span. I actually grew up with those labels actually in school. It's very common. Someone among friends said that, okay, I want to start a new business. I want to make more money. I want to do something. And it's often sort of judged by friends. I've really gone through the education system and I don't have a safe space. What can I do?
That energy is called passion when you are an adult. When people select who to invest in, they need to see that you feel very strongly about it.
I know entrepreneurship is not for everybody. I don't think it's for
something to
everybody.
say very strongly about this. My kids don't need it. Your kids need to know how to make money for the companies they are in. Everything that you consider as a parent a waste of time for the children are all multi-billion, multi-trillion dollar industries that your children would want to work in. Just get them to do stuff and don't tell them it's a waste of time.
I want to have more self-confidence. Am I doomed? Like, am I 35 years old? I'm
Okay,
not
you want a
confident.
5-minute answer?
Okay.
That means literally it's a 5-minute solution. If you do it every day, are you going to get there?
Okay. How's that?
Yes.
Hey guys, welcome to Keep It 100 Talks. And the reason I created this podcast, this talk, is because I believe conversations have such a great way to influence our life. There might be a conversation that you're listening in, or maybe somebody that you're talking to. And in those moments, something in that conversation triggered an inspiration, triggered a whole new set of actions, decisions that open up a whole new path for your life. It's like a little window that opens up to a whole new world. So I want to bring those meaningful conversations in a podcast like this. So we bring in people who are willing to share their journey, share their mindset, share their thoughts and knowledge, revolving topics around mindset, money, and lifestyle. So with that, I got a favor to ask as well. If you ever find value in these conversations, please do us a big favor by subscribing to the channel and also sharing with your friends. Because I believe the larger the podcast grows, we're able to get more people onto this channel to provide you more value. Right, so thanks for watching this episode. And let's keep it 100, let's keep it real. Let's have some really good conversations in Keep It 100 Talks. How important is education in the bearing of our success in our life? I know many ACE students who do pretty good, but I also know many people who didn't score very well but did extremely well. But there's also some who didn't. So what's the factor? Does education really play a big role in our success in our life, in our freedom, in our general quality of our life? And today, I want to bring in someone who's not only have years of experience in education, but also is an entrepreneur, running a business in the education business, now having thousands or maybe tens of thousands of students being impacted by their education system. I'm so happy to bring in today Anne Tham, right? Hi Anne, how are you?
Hello.
Right?
Yes, I'm very excited to be here.
I just want to make sure everyone understands her a little bit more. I think she's really inspiring because she started being education since 1987. And she started her first tuition hustle, right, in 1995.
Yes.
Right, as an entrepreneur, trying to find different ways to make money and try to put out, I think it's more than just money, as Anne will share later on. It's more than just put out money. It's about changing the way people are being educated. And fast forward to today, there are 3 schools, right? And probably more than 3 schools, am I right?
Coming up,
right? So under the whole ACE group, there is a MIT STEM in Kota Kemuning.
Yes.
And then we have
Sri Amas International School, Dwi Amas International School. Currently, we have 1 school in Jakarta,
oh wow,
another one in Bali opening up in January, and 3 more coming up next year in Malaysia.
Oh, that's a lot of things going on, right? So I think what would be great in this conversation, why I would like to bring Anne on this conversation is because, you know, she is not only an educator herself, but she's an entrepreneur, right? So, mom, right? So she's actually my mom-in-law, right? Okay. So, mom, first question: does education system prepare us for success?
Okay, depending on which decade and which era you want the success to be, right? So first and foremost, I need to also be very clear. I'm a mom. I'm a parent. So I did this because I'm a parent. So if as a parent out there, you know what you want for your child, right? So whether it prepares for success, which decade? Because right now, you just imagine a child who is in year 1 right now, they will graduate and be out in the working world in 2040. So those who are in maybe 16 or 17 years old, it'll be another 5 years before they graduate. That's 2030. So are we preparing your child for 2030 to 2040, or are we preparing right now? The education system in many, many countries, the traditional ones, is preparing them to work in 1980s and 2020.
So you're saying that as if, so am I right to say that the current education system, the curriculum, is designed for, is something from the 1980s?
The success of 1980s to 2010.
And I will agree, right? Because now there are more than just, we studied science, economics, and all of that. But is it because the topic is the topics in the curriculum, or is it the style of education is not relevant?
It is not relevant. Entirely. A lot of things entirely not relevant. You want to get the kids ready for that future, you got to train them to be polymaths.
What's polymaths?
They have to have depth in knowledge for a lot of things and areas. So I'm not talking about disciplines or subjects. I'm talking about human skills need to come in besides knowing economics and physics and language all at the same time. Then of course, you have not just, you also have to have the human abilities to come in.
Okay. Yeah. And does the traditional, well, I can answer for myself because I've been through the traditional system. And I found that when I was growing up, I didn't learn things like leadership, negotiation, emotional intelligence, right? How do I control my emotion? How do I deal with other people's emotions? And I think much of that is very important, actually, not in just being an entrepreneur, but also being, to succeed in the corporate world, right? And do you think that we are not putting enough emphasis in this in school?
Okay. First and foremost, when you talk about leadership, innovation, problem solving, all those are human skills, right? Being able to analyze at the highest level. But even that, those are passé. You want to do leadership, it's got to be like leadership under pressure. You're talking about being a leader that others want to follow, not forced to follow. It's changed a lot. And then when it comes to like determination, those things are just overused. Right now, you're talking about persistence in learning, meaning that whatever is thrown at you at that moment, you need to pick up and try it out and pick up skills that you don't even know you have and solve it there and then. That is the kind of skills the children are needing today, and for us to succeed in today's world as it is. So it's oversimplified as to the skills that we have to have today.
I have an opinion. You can tell me what's your opinion on this but I meet a lot of adults, right? Because I'm sure you and I meet a lot of adults too. But I meet a lot of people who want to learn new skills. They want to increase their income, because this is, I meet a lot of people in my age who's always constantly thinking about how to earn more money and stuff. But I find that one of the challenges that I have with, after giving advice, after giving them tools, strategies, sometimes even lending some money. But I find a lot of people are unable to sort of adapt with failures, right? Yeah. Do you think that, okay, my suspicion is this. I think because of the examination style and the pressure to get A's and B's or whatever, right, actually made us really not resilient to failure. It made us weak towards failure. And much, I think, what makes someone be able to have success in their life is in all areas, right? Relationship, money, business, is being able to deal with failures. So do you have an opinion that that's similar, that examination and it doesn't prepare us for this?
Yeah, absolutely. Because first and foremost, to today, there are schools and parents or teachers who actually will whack a kid for scoring 96 4 times because they missed 4 points. It's not just in our country, it's in some of the other Asian countries. So you score 96 points and you get smacked on the hand 4 times because you miss 4 marks. So you talk about failure, absolutely. But you see, there's a difference between carelessness and don't care and you fail versus if you really try and put effort in and then you don't make it and you learn from there. You see, there's a difference, yeah? So a lot of people equate failure with someone who's not trying at all, and or very careless and don't care, So, but when you say for math, for instance, right? You know how fast kids give up? They look at the thing, they cannot see how to start the question. Straight away, they ask for help. Either from friends, so it starts at school, or they ask parents, if not, they cry and parents will help, or the tuition teachers, or they just copy the answer off the board because it was written there for them. Okay. There is a difference between when you attempt the question and you get it wrong. So people put a cross, right?
Yeah.
They never say, okay, why don't you do the question again, right? That's all the shift there is, They just put a cross, now you do corrections, they copy answer from their friends. So the thinking process stops because when you make a mistake, it's like, okay, then I do it another way. And then you see, when you do a second time, usually you get the answer. Or if not, you do a third time. It is what we call the process of elimination. I tried this way, it didn't work, so now I'm going to try another way. So I eliminate this way, then I do this way. That's how I play Candy Crush, by the way.
I heard from my wife, your daughter, right? She's really good at Candy Crush, actually, yeah. So I have a third-party ways to approve this, to verify this as well. So let's come back to the main topic again. Like, what is it about today's education that the question I posed earlier? What about if there's one thing to really say? What can we improve so that we prepare our children for success, or prepare prepare us for success? Like, what's been missing in that?
Teach for the kids. Do everything for the kids. And because right now the education system is prepared by adults, and it is how adults think kids should learn. So, because for me, in a nutshell, in which universe or dimension is it okay for kids to be miserable in school for 11 years of their lives? It's a no-no. Right? Then, so what do you mean by not being miserable? So if you look at what is being done in school right now, where in the world do you see excitement, joy, fascination in their eyes? Like when you play sports, you just imagine doing math, finish, yeah, we did it, high five. That is like that kind of success where you celebrate a success, right? But you don't see that, right? And then at the end of the day, you've been fascinated by this very thing I'm learning, that you can actually see in children's eyes if you get it right. What about joy? So you look at it, homework, the
Pain.
Textbooks.
Homework equals pain.
The textbooks, the content, exciting?
Yeah.
Nope. What about exams? What about
terrifying?
School, all the school rules. Where in the world are you going to create that joy, the excitement, that wonder in learning? So there is a huge difference between academic education as it stands today versus learning. We all have to learn, but there's so many other ways where we are learning, and there's so much excitement and joy. We have to make it happen in the schools. So that's number one.
So you're saying the biggest issue is not about just what topics should we do, what better ways to get the children to memorize, or what better ways to score A. The fundamental question you're asking, and say what you're missing, what we're possibly missing is how do we make education fun and engaging and for the children, right? And I can so relate to that, because if you talk about all those things, the moment you mentioned all those things, all I could feel was, I wish my day would just end so I can go home. I wish I could finish at 4:30. Thank God I got soccer practice at 4:30, right? And everything in between from 8 o'clock to 4 o'clock or whatever the time in the school is just something I dread. Like I dread, right? And exams is anxiety, fear. Some people for apathy, right? Nothing, there's no, and I know it's a big stretch, but I think maybe 80%, 70% of children don't enjoy school.
Yes.
Right?
Actually, you're not far off with the figure.
Really?
Because I've been teaching for, this is almost 4 decades now. And it has not changed. It has not changed that so many children are calling school prison. And, I have my people in my school, the daughter called the school hell. When she shifted the child out of the school into our school, said that, Mom, you just saved me from hell. And she's sitting right here in the studio.
Wow. That's amazing.
Yes, and it's not the first time. That's an 8-year-old child, right? In Hong Kong, we had same issues with parents saying that the child call the school hell. And for me, over the years, they call school prison. And you know what? School is worse than prison. Yeah, because the kids have to sit, literally, they can't move, they can't speak, and you're talking about being bound and gagged. Whereas prisoners still have space to move around. They want to do pumping, they want to do exercise or whatever they can. But kids in school are supposed to spend 6 to 7 hours a day and not move nor speak.
So
this is how bad it is.
So what you're saying is that the first fundamental problem is not about education in terms of academic, right? It sounds like the fundamental issue is how can we make education enjoyable and engaging, and versus being like a prison, right? And I actually I want to bring up one of the things that you posted on your social before, and you had this thing about why are we not allowing children to go toilets, right? So can you share about why did you put that message out? I know there's many things you're passionate about education, but why did you put that message out?
It's because students girls in particular were getting UTI.
Oh.
Yes. And so because then we have had so many cases, and it started because I was in Hong Kong. So my friends in Hong Kong told me, the kids are always rushing to go to the toilet, even when they're in the shopping malls and all that, because they're trained in school to hold their urine, right? And only last minute they rush, because in the schools, the minute school begins and until break time, you're not supposed to go to the toilet. But they're kids, yeah? And then when I came back and I told our teachers in the school that, they said, they looked at me baffled. But Anne, this happens in our school. In Malaysia. I'm like, what? Do you know this is a human rights issue? Not allowing kids to go to the toilet, and it's a health issue. Yeah. What teachers want to control is kids, maybe not being connected in class. They keep running to the toilet every 5 minutes. We understand that. But then becoming a blanket ruling that they can't go to the toilet is a problem. It's not acceptable, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when you put out the video, I now kind of sort of relate that whole idea of like prison, no autonomy function at all. You lose all agency. You cannot. Can't even go and relieve yourself, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And you have not seen kids who have actually peed in their pants in class, kids who end up pooping because they're so scared to ask for permission.
And these are younger kids, like kindergarten, or
it can be usually lower primary.
Oh wow.
Yeah. And then secondary students, for many of them, they will find ways to go out, but even then the control. But little kids are the ones who actually have more fear asking for permission to go out.
Wow.
Yes.
I can't imagine being that kid and looking forward to go to school the next day. Yeah. So you brought up a very important point. I thought that the problem about our traditional education not preparing for success is maybe it's a intellectual way, maybe it's an academic way, maybe it's like how to get us to score better, learn more. But your answer is very interesting. You said that the fundamental problem is creating an environment where children love learning. It sounds like what you're trying to do is make education engaging and enjoyable. And maybe the question on the post is, if adults have this love for education, love for learning, how would it impact our, say, financial, our relationships? How would this person be versus another person who don't have that? Because you've probably seen a lot of adults, right? You've probably taught many people from the traditional school system all the way to what you've done with thousands of kids with some of your students probably are adults.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, they're in their 50s, some of them.
So how would that be different if they instill this love of learning?
Okay. The thing is, it's more about the foundation, right? So we are laying the foundation where when they come out, they hit the ground running. Or they're going to have to come out and then figure their way through and struggle a fair bit to discard a lot of the things that they thought was right in school. So those are some of the things that I find most difficult. The one most horrible one is standard answers, right? Because if you look at when we hire people, my biggest issue is that the world is moving, right? And we are moving. We are also innovating, right? But most people cannot handle innovation. Yes, they don't know what to do with it. So when they become adults, if you try to get them to do things that's more than what they can handle, then they crumble. They do crumble. When I say crumble, I'm not talking about having mental distress or whatever. They just cannot perform. So then we start to struggle with the role is this, we need them to do this, and we can't do what we do with this person in our company that we are paying for. So that is the tough stuff. So then how do they then move to another level? Promotions are tough. And if you talk to people who are owning businesses, the upper management here is the toughest roles to fill because they need way more skills than what our graduates are coming out with.
And what are those skills, and are they taught in school?
We need them to be flexible. We need them to be able to adapt to the market. The other one is because a lot of these critical skills are not laid in. Okay, if you don't lay confidence in people from young, how are they going to have confidence tempered with vulnerability? You can't get to even that level. But for us, more is that the higher we go, the more we have to handle more international partners. We are going international, and that's where they don't show up well.
So it sounds like, and I can resonate with that. I think being able to have confidence to tackle things, even things that I don't know, right, is a very crucial trait to have. I won't say a skill, but a trait to have. And I think many people I know who are successful or be able to create impact in the world, they have great confidence. But I was also wondering, like, is confidence something that you're born with, or something can be nurtured with?
Oh, it can be nurtured because I've spent my entire 4 decades building confidence in young people. Yeah, it can be built.
And how would you do that? Let's say if you take somebody, because I'm sure that, and I've heard many stories, people coming from different schools, completely shut off children, they are not confident. How do you sort of reverse that? And maybe for some of the viewers, I'm just thinking, maybe you are a parent and you have a child and you like to have more confidence, or maybe you are someone who feels like you need more confidence. Maybe I'm trying to ask from the audience, right? So how would you do it in your schools?
Yes, actually, I can share with you some of the kids that came in without confidence. We had kids who came in and wouldn't show their faces. They would have hoodies and they would cover their face, and you
no eye
cannot see their
contact,
face,
everything
completely down like this. And then after a couple of weeks with us, then the hood comes off. To us, a hoodie comes off is a celebration for us. We recently had one where his hair is long and he would cover his face completely, and it took us about a month to have him be able to put his hair back and to be able to tie it up. And these are kids coming from other countries. Yeah,
but why do they do that? Why do they do that? Like because I'm one who maybe a bit thick-skinned. So even though I'm a bit like the delinquent in the class, I'm still like, but I know there are people that in my class, they were just like completely shut off, don't want to see. But why do you think they want to like do that?
Okay, sometimes in general, kids can be quite unkind. Right? Even you see teenagers doing that. They will go after you on things that you're not good at, or if you have funny ears or whatever, they'll go after that. Even names. I remember one of my, just simple thing like one of my students, his name is Barry, but everybody calls him Strawberry. They will come up with nicknames. So this one is kind of cute, but then sometimes the nicknames are not so fun.
Yeah.
So, and then kids being kids, they're kids. That's why we are here to guide them, right? Yeah. They don't know how to draw the line as to when they're making someone miserable versus, we're all laughing together because we're really great friends. And it's a banter, or it's like just getting back at each other, right? So they cannot draw the line when they're starting to make someone feel miserable. Yeah. So that is where the problem is. And then especially if a person may be a little quieter or may have a bit of a challenge because you've come across socially awkward people, right? They can have a really, really tough time. Yeah. So people go after them. Like sometimes I had some new students that join me at secondary level and they go after this particular boy. And then I ask them, why do you go after this guy? Like really in a horrible way. And then he would say, this boy would tell me, he can't take a joke. He's so serious. I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. Because this guy can't take a joke or is serious, then you go after him all the time? So I thought that when you treat people that way, it means that he stole your girlfriend. And then I can understand that anger or that need to pick on that person, right? But no, it's just something as simple as he can't take a joke or he is too serious. I said, oh, whoa. And these are kids that come from a traditional school system that came to our school that we have to undo. We literally have to guide them out of these behaviors. Yeah.
So in your school, you focus more than just like educating the subject, but also helping the children navigate their social life, right? Because I like to think school as like a sandbox, right? You know, like a beginner's version of the real world,
Yes.
right? Including the social elements around it, right? So that's very interesting because and this is what you instruct the teachers to do, right, in the school to help the kids navigate more than the subjects, but
because first and foremost, our school has been we have a transformational education system, and I realized that because we kept getting comments, and don't know what you guys are doing, but your kids transform. For the past 20 years, I've been hearing that, but I never clued in that we actually are doing something that's transforming children. So when we started going down that path, then we realized that, the difference is that we focus on transferring behavior, not transferring knowledge. There's a huge difference. You transfer behavior, the knowledge will come, the results will come. That's all it takes.
Yeah, something I learned from my wife, right? She said, she worked a lot with you, so she said that rather than trying to help improve the grades by sending them children to thousands of different tuitions, which I've tried, right? Okay. The solution is, how do we get children to love learning or like loving, or at least be neutral with loving, right? What's the next step just to improve the experience?
You got to get them to love learning, and you got to get them to love learning from the teachers. So the first thing we did was we trained our teachers how to build rapport with students. And our mandate in the school is that you have to build rapport with 100% of the kids. If you have 5 in the class that like you, no, that's not it. That's not what we're talking about. You got to reach every single one of them on a personal level. Then only then can you impact the lives of children. Otherwise, forget it.
And you would say that to the traditional, at least my experience of the traditional schooling system, I never really have that. It's only one teacher that kind of did that. I mean, that's why I did so well in chemistry, because my teacher really, praised me when I got the answers right. And when I got it wrong, she actually say, "Hey, actually, you know the answer, right?" And it's like, "Oh, I don't know." Like and
encouraging.
Yeah, it's something as simple as that, and support.
That's it.
Right?
Encouragement and support. That's what the teacher did for you.
And what she did, I really liked so much in the class. She asked me to help another A student on the. I was like, whoa, I can help an A student, right? I felt good about it, right? So
you just said it, feeling good. It's feeling good. You need to make them feel good about learning, about education. They need to feel supported, and that's it. That's all you need to do.
That's really nice. This is reflection. I'm thinking, actually, I didn't study chemistry much, but somehow rather I absorbed a lot in class because I just sort of enjoyed looking forward to the chemistry class. We talked about confidence earlier, right? Can you tell a story, or maybe you have a case study of somebody who came in like completely transformed in their confidence?
Okay, maybe I'll share with you what's been going on lately with us, because I think it was last year that we suddenly realized there was an influx of foreign students.
Oh, okay.
From Asia side. We're talking about like China and Japan and Korea and Hong Kong. Hong Kong first came, Koreans and Hong Kong were the first that came in. Then after that, we started getting more China students and Japanese students. So now our school has got a pretty wide, diverse number of different nationalities, which we're very excited about. Then we found out by chance, talking to some parents, that, we're here because we see that our kids they're not improving in their English, whereas your students' English are improve within my friend's children, daughter or son, improve their language in like a year or 2. Now, when we say improve, they are standing before an audience and emceeing. They are doing interviewing and on camera, and they are so confident talking to people. We can have visitors from, like say recent one, Japan came over, and here we are, our students are rattling off and they can ask questions. So that was what parents saw. We didn't really think about that, and they started coming and said, okay, let's, because that's what we do. Whatever we do in the classes is to build confidence in the children, and including the English classes. So and we have presentations in all subjects, but then the presentation is really free-flowing. You could have students in physics class singing a song while they are presenting. Could be anything.
So how would you then help a child become more confident? Because I think confidence is so
Just
important,
two things.
right? Yeah.
Just two things.
Yeah.
The first one is you need to get them to do presentations. Yeah. And then the other one is to get them to just, because the minute you do presentations, and innovation, they must innovate. So we spend a lot of time getting kids to come up with ideas for all sorts of things. So a simple thing like, okay, I have this. Okay, so you come up with ideas and then show it to me. If they come to you with the first 3 ideas within 10 minutes, all you need to do is, okay, now you spend a bit more time and come up with 4 more. It's the 3rd, the 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th one is where they have to push a bit more. Most people don't push the kids beyond that first 3. That's all. And we don't even yell. We're just asking them to sit down, get me a few more. And then you start to see the ideas come up. So that's where innovation comes in, the being creative. The second thing is getting them to present. Yeah. The minute these 2 begin to happen, your child will start moving. In our classes, that's when they start moving. Yeah. And then when they come out to work or in college, they have no idea why people keep choosing them as a leader. So for us, very straightforward. We don't need to have leadership positions because anybody can take on leadership role in a group. Okay? And so that's one. Then when they go out to college, they're like, oh, they keep getting picked as a leader because they have these 2 things. They can present and they can suggest ideas. That's all.
But I think about that's really cool because suddenly it just dawned upon me that people who get promoted, people who bosses value these people because they're able to solve problems, provide unique solutions, right? Which could save costs, increase efficiency, increase performance, which is if the company could do it, it was already doing it already, right? So the whole idea of being able to innovate is actually what's needed in the real world, right? And also presentation skills come with human skills. How do I talk to people? How do I speak powerfully, get my message across? But I think a lot, and this is my experience also, I see a lot of my peers who are so reserved. And some of them are really smart. They're really intellectually smart. They come up with fantastic ideas, but then they're unable to present it. So it kind of makes sense. And I think maybe I'm speaking from some people. They're like, oh, and those are really good things, but those things also mean that I have to confront a few feelings, like speaking in front of people, like scary, right? Presentation is scary. Standing alone, you make the kids stand alone in front of everybody, right? It's really scary. How do you get a kid to actually do that?
Oh, okay.
Because most adults won't. Like most adults will the last thing they do, sometimes raising their hands to ask a question is even really tough, right? So how do you get a kid to build that confidence where the biggest thing that will scare them is the fear of speaking in public?
Yeah. Actually, it all started because many years back I was teaching in the colleges and that was what I saw. I'm like, oh my goodness, after 11 years of education, they come out, all these things they're scared. And they I have class, I remember distinctly one class. At the end of the day, my last class every day, I could not get them to nod their head, shake their head.
In college?
Yes, in college. And these are 18-year-old students. Not a peep comes out for them. And I was horrified because, oh my God, these kids are considered obedient in school because they are good kids. But then now in college, it's not working because I need them to talk to us. I need them to engage and have a discussion. And I couldn't get them there. So I was like, whoa, this is weird. It's really, really weird. Something needs to be done. So, but most of my classes, my kids, I do weird things with them. But this particular class, they are, for me, I would describe them as stubborn. But if they were in regular schools, good kids. You pay attention and you are quiet and you don't disrupt class. But me, here I am asking you to discuss and you're not doing what I'm telling you to do. Stubborn. Insubordination, right? If you go to work and you ask them to do stuff and they don't, then it becomes a problem. And that shows up as well in subordination because they don't know what to do, how to do, and then they just don't do. Then as the owner of a business, if I give an instruction or a CEO of a company or the manager, your staff don't do it, then
Is it because they're afraid to fail, or is it because...
Of course, they don't know how to even begin to do the work. Okay, so but my point is that this is the lack of confidence. Generally, it's lack of confidence. Not sure if their idea, whether they can even come up with an idea is one. So I went backwards, and that's the reason why your wife, my daughter, I created this education system for them. And I started with my English classes. So right from the beginning in my classes, I realized kids and children and teenagers, they don't have an on-off button. You cannot say, okay, now you speak. Now I press the button, you talk. You keep quiet. They don't have that. So in the class, then now what do I need to do is actually get them talking at any time so they have no fear of speaking. But when people hear that, parents and teachers hear, oh, chaos, how can you allow that? Well, then I have to work harder to make my lessons more interesting and what I say fascinating, and the activities surprising, so that, I've never done that before. It looks interesting, right? Or if I say something, I have to be able to get their attention, right? Then only you can give them the freedom to speak, but at the same time, I can control the class. So this is the one thing that needs to be trained in teachers on how to do, but it doesn't appear in the teacher training colleges at all.
I see. So by getting children to be obedient, right? What ends up happening is that you rob the children of...
So every time we have this issue, because people come and they see chaos in our school, but it's actually controlled chaos, because the kids are just running around doing things and they're learning and they're happy there in school. And the thing is, they're not running around doing nothing and wasting time. So when people come and they say, so what about discipline in your school? The first question...
that's what I noticed. Like when I go to the halls, normally when the bell rings and the class starts, right, everything's quiet. The only voice you hear is the teacher's voice, right? But when the bell rings in the school and you walk through the corridors, you hear children's noise everywhere. Because
that's the nature of children. That's why, remember earlier I said that you have to teach kids from the kids. You have to treat them like kids, but not turn them into little adults. Just because the exam means you have to sit still and quietly do your exam doesn't mean you have to teach it that way for 11 years of their lives. That is my biggest pet peeve, right?
So you say parents who said, are there like no discipline, right?
Yeah. So then we ask this question: what do you mean by discipline? So then the actual thing is that the parents want total obedience. So that's not discipline, What we are talking about is self-discipline. There's a whole huge gap between total obedience and self-discipline. You get total obedience from external discipline. You have to control the children, whether it's to yell at them, use cane or whatever. And that's what makes them miserable. We work towards self-discipline. Look, I give you this, and therefore you can help me by doing this. It's as simple as that.
So it sounds like it's better to have a class of children who listens to the teacher because they want to versus they are forced to.
Yes.
Right?
How many times, maybe I should ask you what your teachers say about you when your parents meet them, right? So many kids get this. The parents say that they're easily distracted. They can't sit still. They're lazy. Okay.
All of that.
Yes. So the question I ask is, where is the teacher's responsibility in all this? Because distraction means whatever you're doing is not engaging enough to hold their attention, right? When you say they're fidgeting, yes, of course, if you're forcing them to sit still, the fact that they need to move, you're saying that they're fidgety. So again, the fault is on the child, right? So in our school, we make use of the energy. We move the kids around a lot. And they will have, for group discussion, it's not just turn around with your friend. Okay, find a spot somewhere else. And they're moving. So even if you're doing something heavy in class, it's like, okay, if you get it, high five your friends sitting next to you. High five. That is all what we call body shots to activate the brain again. Because if they're 10 years old, their maximum attention span is 10 minutes. So all you need to do is get them to move their hand, raise their hands. How many of you get it? Raise their hand.
And that resets their attention span.
It resets another 10 minutes. That's all it takes. So we learn all this from our trainers from America. We don't get it here, right? So that is, so that's getting the kids. Besides that, when you talk about the energy level, the next thing is need to control. You need to control, be able to raise it or to lower it or keep it without having to yell. So these are tools and skills of the top trainers in the world. They want to raise your energy, they can do it. They can 5,000 strong, they can raise 5,000 people's energy. So, but class of 25, 40, we can do that, but we need to train them how to do it. So those are some of the things. And then lazy. Hey, the main thing is that really, are kids really, really lazy? Because they won't stop playing computer game. They're very hardworking there.
Yep.
Playing basketball, they're very hardworking, and sometimes come and disturb you in the kitchen because they also want to do cooking with you, right? They're very hardworking there. So watching MasterChef, Junior MasterChef,
Yeah.
So all that. So they're not lazy. The work is not engaging. That's why they don't want to do it. It is boring and it doesn't stimulate their brains. It doesn't get them excited. But whose fault is it? The kids. They're lazy.
Lazy, no attention span, not focused. Yeah, I actually been grew up with those labels actually in school. And what it did for me was I became more rebellious actually. I became more rebellious. I check out even more and just not engage. And they will say things like, actually, your son quite smart one, but he's just lazy, right?
No. It's a no. And for me, there are very, very few kids who are actually lazy. All kids are bright, okay, unless maybe they have some learning challenges, there are some, but they're all bright. And then you have those that are, so in general, they are, where was I going? Yeah, so they are very bright, but very few are actually lazy. How do you tell a lazy kid? They won't even put out any energy to have fun. Yeah, everything very boring. Before they even do the thing is boring. Watching TV is also boring. Or that's about the activity they like doing because they can sit and do nothing. But very, very few kids are like that. Generally, there's something that interests them and the energy level is very high. So you need to use it. Me speaking like this could get me into trouble with a lot of teachers out there and parents. I know. But the thing is, I'm not speaking from out of hot air or anything. We've already been doing it, right? So that's why I dare to say it. There is a way to do it, and whether we are committed to doing it. That's it. Because for me, it all started because, look, I started doing my own tuition. I had to be concerned whether the next term my students are coming back or not, right? Whereas if you're a teacher in regular schools, whether you do a good job or not, the students have to be there. You don't have to make it interesting that they want to be there. Huge difference. I had to wonder whether whatever I was doing would get them to want to be there. So everything I was doing was to do that, because only if they stayed with me could I get them to where they need to go. Because I know learning presentation skills to the highest level, I can't do it in a month. Don't give me 2 days to do it. It's impossible. And then to get them to the level of language where there's so much depth, they can play with the language, they can write anything for you under the sun, including they can think through the whole process and present anything under the sun. I need time. So for that alone, I had to keep them wanting to come back. So lo and behold, I figured out to get kids to do the things they don't want to do, which is to do writing. 90% of students don't want to do writing naturally. 90% of people don't want to do presentations naturally. So I've turned that around to 90% love it and 90% wanting to do it. So what did it take to do that?
How do you do that? Like, because I'm one of those kids that hate writing, right? So how would you take someone like me who refuse to write few paragraphs, refuse to write I'll just copy my friend's paragraph just to submit my homework. Yeah.
Don't judge. You don't judge. And the problem is that people judge kids writing. So what we do is we get them to just write. And then you don't go after them on the grammatical errors, right? What you do is, okay, this part here, you just help them adjust the grammar, right? You just adjust that. You know how to get them to do the grammar right? It's not to get them to do corrections. You get them to read it out loud. to hear it, so they can hear how it correctly sounds.
Oh, so rather than you judging on their work, you ask them to just experience their work.
Yes, they write. They just write. So you don't make them feel lousy about you picking on all the things that are wrong. So, and my students will write anything. It's so cute. And then the next thing you have to tell them, oh, that's the other thing that stops people from writing, is that they're afraid that they don't have enough language. This was me observing something that happened in college. I had an Indonesian boy who was 18 years old at that time. This is my early days teaching, and I gave like the basic English from Indonesia, right? And so he's got Thai friends and all that in the class besides Malaysian students. And then I gave them topics like write about your friend. Typical, huh? Because of my experience in college, I refused to get my kids at a young age to write about myself and your friend, my friend. Because they get stuck writing like a child. Yeah. So at that level, they're still writing, my friend's name is this, 18 years old. My friend's name is this and this and this. He comes from here and here and here. He likes it. I was horrified. This Indonesian boy, his friend's name I still remember is Apichat. This boy is Agus. Okay. And he said that he likes girls. You can tell he likes girls. And his English was very basic. Yeah. You can tell because his eyes, when a girl walks by, his eyes will change from brown to blue. I was like, that is so cute. And then he has a big body, like a boxer.
Okay.
So I was like, wait a minute, this is very simple English. And for the first time, I had a very interesting essay to read. Yeah. So then from there, that was my first 2 years of teaching, in the colleges. Then after that, I realized, oh my goodness, it's nothing to do with how much language you have. You want to write well, is that you learn to play with a language that you have. That's it. I can give example. I can change people's ability to write in 2 minutes.
So let's say if I don't like to write,
okay,
I can bring you back to when I was, I think 14 years old. Now I'm naturally good at English because I grew up speaking English and I play a lot of RPGs and I read Lord of the Rings and Harry Potter, right? But I'm not a great writer and I refuse to write. It's one thing I resist the most. So,
that's what you think.
Yeah.
Okay, because right now, all you need to do is record what you say and type it out. You have your writing already. Why do you need to sit to write? Okay, so that's what a lot of people think that you have to do to write. As an adult, all you need to do is verbally record what you have to say and you listen to it again and pick out all the things you want and you have a piece of writing.
But what if it's not grammatically correct or not?
No, then you correct it after that. That's why you have editing, you have drafts. So, but the main point is that you just rattle off because your ideas are there. When you sit and you want to write, you're trying to get it perfect. No, don't. We all have drafts.
And is that where most people get stuck? They try to get it perfect. They try to score. They try to do good.
Correct.
Right.
Then the other thing they don't understand, because when you speak, you don't worry about whether, okay, this is correct or not. You don't. But you get a lot right actually from just speaking. So with the children, how to unlock to be very individual in your writing, to have very descriptive ways of saying things and to make your writing different from everybody else. Okay, so I tell kids, like this table, for instance, right? Okay, maybe not the right brown, but okay, let's say this table is a darker brown, right? And then you're describing your friend's handbag. Yeah, okay, the color of your handbag is brown like the cockroach I stepped on this morning. You see the difference?
Yeah.
And there's no word in there that you don't know.
Yeah.
They're all very easy words.
Yeah.
But then now you chuckle.
Yeah.
Right? The image is odd.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Cockroach I stepped on this morning.
Yeah.
So all you need to do is play around with the words that you have. That's it.
And just like that, you get the children to enjoy writing more. And you see your children start sharing their writing with each other?
They have to.
Because presentations,
yes,
right?
they present. Because writing, if you're writing just for writing's sake and it's just the teacher reading, there's no publication. So there's no reason for you to write. But if you're writing and others get to see or get to hear, then there is a purpose to it. You've got to give purpose to the writing. But this is actually going down the path of like really, really education, the academic side. That's, what we need to shift in the classes. Yeah. That's I'm going down that path with you right now.
Yeah, but it's very interesting. It gives a lot of insight to actually what you mentioned. This gave me exactly like, oh, that's why I didn't like writing because was not about, hey, why don't you try this? Why don't you try that? It was about like, this one is wrong. That one is wrong. And now it sounds like I can see why my confidence took an impact in school because I end up either avoiding being in this situation when I'm wrong. So I only study to not be wrong. I don't study to learn something. I study to avoid being wrong.
Excel or to really like try new things and all.
So
I get it.
if I'm watching this video and I'm already an adult, and some people watching this video may be thinking, I want to have more self-confidence. What now as an educator, right? What can am I doomed? Like, am I 35 years old? I'm not confident. Like, what am I? How do I rectify that?
Okay, you want a 5-minute answer? That means literally it's a 5-minute solution. If you do it every day, you're going to get there.
Okay. How's that?
Yes. YouTube.
YouTube?
Yes.
Huh?
Okay. The best ones, okay. It can be anything under the sun, actually. But
So let's say I'm not confident in speaking, right? Yeah.
Okay, first off, there is a... Okay, never mind. I'll just go down YouTube.
Okay.
Because or whichever platform you use where you have access to videos and things like this, right? You just follow the readers, the speakers. Every sentence you just pause and say it exactly the way the person says it. Okay, because when people when people speak, there's a lot of intonation, all that, and what you want is the accuracy. But you pick the videos that have that is of interest to you because you're getting more information. So the first thing what you want to do is to have information. Yeah. Now, once you have the information, you need to be comfortable to say something about it, to speak it, right? That's why you say that you have friends very smart, but they dare not say, they dare not speak. Because if it's science or math, who gets to discuss math? Who gets to discuss science? It's not going to happen. So likewise, if you are watching things and you're picking up information, but if you have not really used the language, you're not going to be comfortable speaking, right? So that's number one. Number two is to become more confident with playing around with your voice and, to like shout or even do something. Then you watch movie trailers. That would help a lot. Yes, as you watch the movie trailer, you pause and then you say exactly how they say it. And you see whether, especially like Marvel trailers or any of the other, even cartoons would be quite funny because sometimes you have to do things to imitate voices for children and so on and so forth, right? But then you do exactly that, even with sound effects and all that. That's how you get to become very, you have intonation and you have more varied ways of speaking and so on. Then you become better speakers. You don't need to go for class for that one.
Just 5 minutes a day.
5 minutes a day.
But it sounds like it requires me to sort of, some people are watching this, we're thinking like, I'm just thinking from the viewers, like, I'm going to sound silly. I'm going to sound stupid, doing this.
So, isn't it even sillier when they go out there and speak and say the wrong things? So, Malaysians are very comfortable saying, they're comfortable saying the thing wrong, but they're not comfortable saying it right. Okay, I give you...
I never thought about that. How is that so?
I had to convince my students, because when you speak, one of the things is, you say kick it. You don't say kick it.
Yeah.
How you want to sound like an English-speaking person is to join the vowels with the...
Cricket, right?
Wait, no, sorry. The consonant sounds with the vowels. Like kicked it, right?
Kicked it
starts
the
with
past
a
tense
vowel.
Kicked it.
Yeah. So it can be kick it, kicked it, or kicking it.
Yeah.
Right? Malaysians are very uncomfortable to say kicking it, or kicked it, or kick it.
Oh.
Yes.
So what they say? They say kick it.
Kick it, kick it. Then kicked. They just say kick it, or kicking it. So then it becomes very choppy, right?
So why do they do that?
Because they're not comfortable doing it the other way. So that's why I'm wondering why. It started with my students in the classes. I said I had to figure out how to convince them. So I said, why are you comfortable speaking it incorrectly? It can be a simple thing like the TH sound, right? So they will go, third will be third, yeah? And I have to tell them, do you know that means SHIT? Yeah? And I said, you're going around saying he's third, right?
Yeah, third, yeah.
But you're not shy doing that. You're not embarrassed doing that. You don't feel silly doing that. But they feel silly going third.
Or to do it properly.
So when I get them to say third,
Yeah.
Yeah. Third,
Yeah.
it's so hard to get them to do it. They get very shy and they feel silly.
Actually, I can relate this to entrepreneurial pursuits, financial growth. It's often seen, right? And it's really funny, right? Now that you say this, it suddenly dawned upon me when somebody, it's very common, someone among friends said that, okay, I want to start a new business. I want to make more money. I want to do something. And it's often sort of judged by friends. Like you want to do something good, right? Say, like, I'm going to get fit. And it's common. Like, I'm sure most of you can relate. Some of you can relate on the audience is that, I want to do something good and then I get laughed upon.
Yeah.
Right? And I think now that I'm talking to you, it sounds like much of the schooling system actually creates that,
Yes.
right? That you judge someone who's standing out, right? You sort of shame the person who's trying to do something better. Like, why try so hard? Like, hey, boyo are you? Yeah.
I had friends who wanted, some of my students told me in their school, she was working very hard to speak more English, okay? And her English actually is very strong, right? And when she speaks it, the friends in her community or her group will say, go back, go to US or whatever, tell her to go back to US and things like this. Or even amongst the Chinese, they will be said like very proud, show off, things like that. We do that to each other.
Yeah, English so good, show off.
Yes, they do that somehow, unfortunately. So, sometimes in school, if you don't create the right environment in the school, then you will have people, like the crabs in a basket, you try to rise
Escape,
above
and then
and
they pull them
down.
down.
Yeah. So you literally have to have a very safe environment for the students, you know. Yeah, if you don't, then you cannot do this. So that's why the education system itself, there's so many things that need to be dealt with. It's not one thing. Yeah.
It sounds like we came this conversation thinking there's one thing or two things that could really be important, but it sounds like the way you're approaching education is looking at it wholesomely rather than just looking at one, So now I'm thinking about for adults, right? I've really gone through the education system. I'm not confident. I'm not willing to innovate. I'm not willing to try to do things properly, And I don't have a safe space. I don't have a safe space at work. I don't have a safe space at home. What can I do? Like, let's say I'm already an adult,
Okay, because we're adults, sometimes we just have to do it. We just have to do it. And it's something that you might have to just gear yourself up to just do it. Because you come to a point where outside of you finding a very supportive community, that means you spend time amongst people who are more supportive. The minute you have friends who will pull you down and things like this or laugh, and to the point where you dare not do, you might want to spend more time with other groups of people or find other groups. Doesn't mean you leave them alone, yeah? But you may need to find more friends who are more supportive. And there are people like that out there who will support you. And you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So I surround myself with people who are very supportive. Otherwise, I will stay away from them.
Yeah, I think a lot of people think that, a lot of people may think that willpower is the way to do something, but I much believe that environment plays such a big influence on our willpower, on our results, more than our willpower actually, because there are many days that you won't feel like doing something and you might, pick yourself apart, but having a supportive system is more powerful, right? And I can attest to that. I think the way I saw education after I graduated, my education continues. And when I started going to courses, joining masterminds, meeting people who are growing, I started to meet people who supported me. Like I have people who I can talk to that are not shy to do better, right? And then now that I want to sort of add on top of what you say is that support what you say, because I think if you don't have friends who are encouraging you to do better, right? Supporting like, hey, you tried, good job, you tried, right? Maybe you can find them in areas that these people exist, like seminars.
And they are there.
And they are there, yeah.
They're there. There are a lot of them out there. The other thing also, actually, I'm very fortunate because at home I have a very supportive husband. So this is something that I don't talk about a lot, but because you know Dad, then you know. So he never once in my entire life did he stop me from doing what I needed to do for education and to start this whole business going. And he never made me feel guilty or lousy about it either. So that it helps a lot that I have the support from within the family as well.
I'm glad that we brought this up because I was thinking about your creating safe space in school, encouraging learning, encouraging trying, encouraging presentation skills, encouraging kids to try and fail, right? And sort of encourage that, and I think if now I'm just thinking, maybe for adults we can do that for ourselves. Just because I don't have that environment today, it doesn't mean I can't have it tomorrow and the next 3 months to come. Maybe for some people watching this video, it could be, maybe your next New Year resolution 2025 is to get yourself if you want to make more money, get yourself in an environment where you're growing and learning, right? Like I know friends in Equities Tracker right now, they have a community of people learning how to invest and grow. And definitely you meet people who would encourage you, I made a mistake, right? And they say, hey, I made that mistake before. It's okay, it's normal. Right, versus being in your friends who are maybe like the crabs pulling crabs. Now it's like, I told you, I think rich people won't share all their techniques with you. They will teach you all these things, and then, right, because I had both this kind. I have both this kind of friends. Like, you think it's so smart, like you go invest, see,
Yes, absolutely. I know exactly what you're talking about as well. And so one of the things is you need to really, really find your group. And the thing is that a certain group will not support. Just don't talk about it. You talk about things that you want to do, or if you need encouragement, you talk about it in the other group that supports. So you just need to choose.
So it's not about right or wrong, it's what you choose, right? My grandfather left me with this quote. He says, if you want to conquer the world, your house must be at peace. And I always think that a mental house, a house could be something mental, right? Or your environment, your friends, your support structure, right? So you need to have that solid foundation in order to, to have that. Right?
And if you don't have it at home, you got to find it outside. Yeah, that's okay too.
Well, we talk a lot about environment and I think we've got so much about this, but I also want to make sure that I extract some more questions from this podcast, if you don't mind. So I want to talk about. I know you did say that. Hey, learning to love education is important. But I also have a firm believer that certain curriculums need to be in education because I realized that, for example, financial management, right? I graduated and then I got into my first network marketing business. I started to make my first 6 figures. I made 600,000 ringgit in my 3rd year in network marketing. I lost it all because I just didn't have financial literacy. I didn't have financial skills, right? Do you think that, because I just looked at education and think, hold on a minute, we're going in this world where we're going to use money, handle money, but nothing in the 12, 14, 15 years teaches me about budgeting, about savings, about how investing works. Do you think that we should teach children this, or is it too early to teach them in school? Or do you teach them in school? Because
Yes, we do. In fact, we start them from kindergarten.
From kindergarten?
Yes, because a lot of people don't seem to understand that the children from kindergarten, they already have the behaviors and their natural characteristics are very entrepreneurial. First and foremost, they won't take no for an answer.
Children?
Yeah, little kids. If they want something, they'll go ask mommy. Mommy says no, they'll go to daddy. Daddy says no, they said mommy said yes. And if both say no, they go to grandmother.
Yeah. That's exactly me.
So, but that's the nature of children. So it is only as they grow up that we start to control and change all that out. So outside of not saying no, they have no problem asking, and they will be very, very determined about that. The other ones, they like playing with money. They like imitating adults. So why not, let them do it in a safe space where it is real. So our kindergarten kids also will sell stuff, right? Yes. During the recent app day, the parents came along and here they were. There's so many cute things that they did. But then primary school, we have very, very focused curriculum for entrepreneurship. So DWMAS is completely our entrepreneur school. All kids learn entrepreneurship. My other two schools, the demographics are a little different. So not everyone wants entrepreneurship there. So I didn't make it compulsory
Mandatory,
there.
yeah.
But when we did DMAS, we were very clear because we knew majority of the parents were business owners. And as business owners, one of the key things we want our kids to do is maybe to take over our business. And or we're going to leave them things and they better know how to handle it and not waste everything away, right? So out in the market, so there are a lot of what do you call statistics already that to pass on to second gen, it drops down to, okay, I cannot recall. I think it's about 30%. When it goes to third gen, it drops down to 9%.
The survival of the business. Yeah. The success of the business gets reduced every generation.
Correct. And then they say after third generation, the thing disappears for in many cases. Right? Yeah. So we knew that, and we knew that we have to teach the kids differently, right? So thank goodness we had a lot of parents who were very supportive of the kids learning entrepreneurship. Yeah. But and then as I went down the path of teaching the kids, a lot of people don't understand that entrepreneurship is what brings all the skills that they learn in school and make it real, because it links it to the real world. They're doing it for real. Okay. So if they, like some of the students were doing things with epoxy, with resin.
Okay, resin. Yeah.
So resin, and they have to manage it. There's a lot of physics there, you know. Yeah. And then there's a lot of design work there, but at the same time, they're running it as a business. And I remember one of my boys, he was only 10 years old, and he was doing hydroponic system. And he told the mom had the system. They told the mom, there are 62 leaves on this tower. You can cook 2 leaves. I'm going to sell 62 leaves in school. Okay. Then later on, he had his own system, and he even had his own. But to do the hydroponic system, you really need to know physics, chemistry, biology. Right, because there's a system flowing through that's physics, and then chemistry for the fertilizers that you have to put in, and biology for the plants to grow. But at the same time, he was selling the vegetables, and he had a business model. And the business model was a subscription model.
And he was what, 10?
11 years old at that time already.
Wow. So it's a subscription business model for hydroponic vegetables.
Yes.
Wow.
That he sold to our teachers and other parents.
So was he doing basil? Like based on the herbs and stuff?
No, he was doing pak choy. This is even cuter. He was growing pak choy.
Oh, pak choy.
Yeah, then one day he told his mom, no, we cannot do pak choy because pak choy is only 2 something for 200 grams. We have to do kale. It's 12 something for 200 grams. Everybody was telling him kale is hard to grow on hydro. He did it. See, this is what we mean by physics, chemistry, biology, econs, business, accounting, all come together. They're doing it for real. And you have your English, you have to speak. You've got to speak.
You got to sell, you got to speak, you got to learn to write.
Convince people.
Yeah. And maybe learn how to design cost collaterals and wow.
Yes.
And inadvertently, then you would I wouldn't say force, like you would have to learn chemistry. You got to learn what goes in the nutrients of
They
a plant.
get excited about chemistry.
Right?
Because you're excited about whether the plants can survive or not.
And that kind of chemistry and biology is probably like probably a few years ahead. And it's really picking up at 10 years old, 11 years old. So,
See?
Oh.
Right there.
So you use entrepreneurship as a way to integrate lessons from academics.
Yes. And then as we went down that path, we realized, and I have a way to describe entrepreneurship, right? There's a difference between being an entrepreneur versus being a business owner. Business owner, you can choose what you want to make money with, and then you start and you work towards it. Entrepreneurs, they're out there for usually a purpose and people. Okay? And therefore, like when COVID happens, you really have to chart new paths, and you have to start changing out how you do things. So entrepreneurs are like the pioneers of the old days where they have to explore, right? And they will go down and create paths where none have existed before. Better still is if they create a whole superhighway. And they've done it. People have done it. You know, so then how do we teach kids to do this, to be like this? It's a whole different ball game. Then a lot of people don't understand why the necessity for entrepreneurship, it has to be in the curriculum. You hear it from the top organizations in the world, from WEF, from World Economic Forum to, some of these top level McKinsey, okay, I better not mention, and other consulting groups. They know what the world is, and therefore they all they are proponents of entrepreneurship in schools. A lot of countries, ministerial level, at governmental level, entrepreneurship is key. But nobody knows how to teach it all the way down to primary school and have it consistently, a whole curriculum. Okay? But what they fail to realize as well is actually entrepreneurship is the greatest leveler of society and social economic status, whatever. And everything. Because to do a business, it doesn't matter age. Whether you're a child or you're an adult or you're old, you can start. Whether you have money or you don't. Whether you come from a country that's rich or a poor country. Whether you come from a top school or not. Whether you can walk or you cannot walk. Whether you can speak English or not, you can do business. So for me, I find that it's the best leveler of all. And yet, it is not told in this manner.
I was also about to ask the question, what got you inspired to introduce entrepreneurship to kids? Because I'm sure there's so many parents like, don't you think you're distracting them from getting A's and everything?
It's what I get from people who are, generally, if people are working, they will think that the kids will get distracted. Another one will, I got another comment, then will my kid become materialistic? But there is no default button that says the minute you become an adult, then you won't be materialistic, then you'll know how to do business. No, all people who do well in life, generally they start very young. They start very young. They're already doing and thinking things very differently from a very young age. So that's why it's got to start young. Once you layer down all the stuff that is, the roadmap as per what people think successful education is, it's very hard to undo. Very hard to undo. Yeah.
You have so much passion to entrepreneurship. Now I can see that how it sounds like you do education more than just like getting kids to score A and get more of that. And maybe I've got a question I want to ask. Maybe I think this will be an interesting question. If you have a magic wand to wave and recreate the education system, what do you think it would look like?
No exams, no textbooks, not the way it's written. Yeah.
Why is that so?
Because
that's how, actually, you know what, when you say that, for me it's like, well, that's what education entails, exams, textbooks.
Why? Why should it be that way? Because this came about because I went down the path of being an entrepreneur, right? And I started re-looking at how students need to be examined. Okay. And it came about because an investor actually told me this. He said, a Malaysian investor, he said, Anne, when we pick the company to invest in, we look at the character of the founder or the CEO. Yeah.
And what are they looking for?
So that's the thing. I didn't ask him, right? But it got me thinking. So, okay, what exactly are they looking for? So I actually went online to search, and the qualities, characteristics of entrepreneurs, they're very different from those coming out with academic results. Very different. Because if you look at what schools are looking for versus what entrepreneurs are people are looking for in entrepreneurs, they're very different. In school, keep the energy down, suppress it, right? That energy is called passion when you are an adult. When people select who to invest in, they need to see that you feel very strongly about it. Yeah, because when things get tough, it's the passion that will see it through. And then when you speak with passion, that's where you draw people towards your goals or whatever you want to do, your vision, right? But if you suppress the energy from young, and how are they going to have passion when they grow up? It's just a simple thing like that.
Or you make fun of someone who dares to try something, right? Then you suppress that too, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
And then solving problems, you only solve problems as per the textbook. But then the real world is we're solving problems unseen before. The minute a lot of adults hit problems that they cannot get answers for, they don't know what to do.
But that's funny because what makes a lot of money are people who figure out how to solve problems in a way that was never done before.
Correct. And there are many, many, many problems out there that has been around for 200 years and cannot be solved.
And all the answers are not in the textbook. So you say remove the textbooks because it encourages children to think outside the box.
So just now I said preparing the kids for 2040. You want to know what the problem is with education? It's about the past. Everything in all the books you're learning is about the past. So you're testing the past. I have a problem with that. How do you test the future? Nobody knows. Then how do you prepare for the future? Nobody knows. So exam, how do you examine? You see? So right now, the examination all over the world is about the past. But when you look at examination and how to get results, and actually in the real world, right? The world of business, the industry, when we work, how do you get promoted? It's not because you sat for an exam.
Yeah. It's not about just doing your job well. That's just the one prerequisite. You do a job well, you're a good worker.
Yeah. So how do you get assessed?
Well, I got promoted very quickly. Now, look at my past. I got promoted very quickly. I was one of the youngest duty manager, responsible for one of the oldest 5-star hotel in Malaysia, in KL, because I kept standing in front, and when someone says, I have a complaint, I will say, I'm the manager, right? And I try to solve problems. I try to please the customer, solve the problem, and report to my boss.
Yes.
I was constantly, and then I was going to meetings and telling my boss, do you know that this is a recurring problem? We need to solve this. That's why I was promoted. And, I had people who are 20 years in the hotel, 15 years in the hotel, 10 years in the hotel, and they were never selected for promotion. And I was offered a promotion because of that.
So why? Why did you get promoted? In what
About the future.
form? What way did they assess you?
Not by scoring A in
Exactly.
hardiness or everything, right?
So why are we assessing the kids on exam results? Because there's so many other ways to assess it. And when you assess it in other ways, a lot more skills show up than just exam skills. Because we get our kids to present. When you go to university, you do a thesis. You also have to present the thesis,
Yes. Yes.
So the presentation, but then exam is just a written form.
I think in certain education system, like the British, less weight on presentation. I think the Canadian system or something, they put some weight on the presentation as
A
well.
lot.
A lot more
Every
weight.
subject.
So not just you're able to excel in the research and creating a thesis, but you should be able to present it very well.
Yeah.
So it's so interesting because I always like to inspire my audience. I know entrepreneurship is not for everybody. That's at least my point of view. Maybe you think it's for everybody, but
Okay.
But for me, it's like but for those who are you have a let's hear that. Like,
Yes,
I don't
have
think it's
something
for
to
everybody.
say very strongly about this. I just spoke to a group of people from Japan, okay, because they are dealing with alternative energy. So I was told that, you tell them one thing at a time because we have an environmental curriculum in our school. So they were very interested in that. But then let's leave out the entrepreneurship at the moment. That was the advice I was given. When they came in here, they found out we had entrepreneurship alongside with the environment. They are like, okay, this entrepreneurship is so important. And in our company, we hire people with backgrounds in entrepreneurship. See, this is what parents do not know. I even got this same information from one of the the Swiss banks. Swiss banks, and that guy was speaking in an EdTech conference in Vietnam, and he is of British nationality but working in Hong Kong. So it's so worldwide, right? So in that conference, he said that even for their organization, they hire people with entrepreneurship. But parents don't know that. That is from a bank from Switzerland.
So entrepreneurship is not just about like I start a business or anything. It's an attitude. It's a way of
Yes, okay. As an owner of a business, why would I not want someone who think like an entrepreneur? Okay, because entrepreneurs are always solving problems. But then not everybody is suited to be an entrepreneur. But then I need people who think like an entrepreneur.
And that's what you're trying to create with Do Your Mass and education.
Yes. So they become, and you see, at the end of the day, entrepreneurship it's not business skills. It's not just business study skills. They have, there's a 2-prong here, an entrepreneur skill and the skill to do business. And every job that your child is going to be working in, they are businesses. So you imagine young people today coming out and they don't know business. That is our struggles with our the people who work with us. Yeah.
And I much agree with that because if you want the knowledge, like how does this chemistry bond work or what does this react to? it's no longer coming from us. We all can go on Google and find the answer. So knowledge is no longer valuable, right? I think as age of AI even comes up,
Yes.
I could ask AI to answer questions for me, right? So then I feel that what you're bringing is more future based, which is how do I solve problems? Because as long as human exists, there's always going to be problems and challenges, right? And the ability to resolve problems, think outside the box, will be a highly valued skill, right?
Actually, Thomas, you got it right there, because when you talk about solving problems, because a lot of people think that, the entrepreneurship part is
Making money.
one is making money, but they don't need it. My kids don't need it. Yeah. And that is where the biggest pitfall is. Okay. Because your kids need to know how to make money for the companies they are in. The more they can make for the company, the faster they go up and the higher, the more valuable they are in the industry.
They'll get poached by headhunters, right? The good performers always get calls, say, hey, we're calling from this company. We got another company that might be interested in you, right? Yeah, and it's nothing to do with excelling in A or passing a certain set of things, right?
Yes, and therefore, when they have entrepreneurial skills, it doesn't matter what their results are. But if they are A students, they have options. Even if they become doctors or any engineers and everything, if those jobs disappear, okay, they know what to do, what to move on to. Okay, and if they are also a doctor, well, they can run medical centers, own it. Yeah. So a lot of people don't think about it. This doesn't mean that, if I do entrepreneurship, then it'll be wasted, my kid having the A, straight A's. No, go together. Just go together. They have options. That's the point. But if your kids are B, C, D, E, F, G, they don't need the grades. They don't literally, so this is where I'm very controversial. People are going, you don't need grades. Well, if you get a B, parents are not happy with Bs. I've got students who cry when they get Bs. So it's the B is like a fail. So one parent actually told me, he said, Anne, if my child has 8 A's, it's the same as 1 A. They still cannot get scholarships.
Really?
Yeah, you got to have full A's to get scholarships.
Really? Oh, wow.
Yeah,
wow.
And because in some exam systems, they have 10, 11, 12 subjects.
Well, I wish I have so many A's on my report card. 8 A's is a lot for me,
But for maybe the systems that we're doing, 8 or 9 A's may be the full. So as long as like full straight A's, you can. But if you have 5 A's, one parent told me it's the same as having 1 A. You still can't get scholarships. Yeah. So the point is that we're not saying that at the end of the day, if you're going to pay money to get your kids educated, we better work towards getting your kids A's. All right. That's our point. Work towards that. But there are many ways to get there and not just sit still and do exam after exam. That's the point we're trying to make here.
But I want to touch on something interesting, which is I heard this story from my wife, your daughter, who's also deep into education like you, that when you guys focus more on the children's engagement and happiness in the school, for some reason their grades actually go up.
Of course they'll go
without
up.
trying, like they will automatically go up. How is that so?
Because they remember better. Because the reason why we work so hard in making the lessons fun and entertaining, parents are like, that's too much fun. But yeah, you want the kids to feel the emotions. Studying from the book is so boring. And all the words run together. You fall asleep, But then what you want is for them to remember. But when you sit down and read, 2 weeks after reading, the retention rate is only 10%.
Means that if the only way of learning is reading and classroom, then my retention is 10%.
10% after 2 weeks. So what about 1 month down the road where the exam comes along?
No chance.
No chance. Yeah. That's why you hear, like back when I was young, I used to say that, no, I cannot revise so early because I'll forget.
Yes, that's why I say I'll revise only close to the exams.
Yes.
And then I'll get myself in trouble because I have so many things to revise.
Correct. Exactly. So this is the reason. And these are things that is proven, right? Where your retention rate. So the retention rate is always higher when you're doing or when you're discussing or when you're actually doing simulations and things like this.
Engaging and presenting.
Yes. The minute you have to present something means you have to teach it, you will know the topic very, very well.
Yeah. So now that I'm thinking about it, if I'm an adult, I want to be good in investing, trading, or business, or finance. Then reading it is one of the worst ways to learn it, right? Then the best way to learn this is to engage in the community, engage people, share, teach, interact, right?
That's why Cash Flow 101 was such a hit.
I mean the Kiyosaki's Cash Flow 101.
That's why it was such a hit.
Oh, because you have to play the game, you have to move the things around, argue, talk,
Yes,
right?
and you
Debate.
know the collaborations, the things that come up that nobody ever imagines. Because when you play it, it's like life. You know, if you see the kind of the stories I can tell you, the collaborations that came out of it with my teachers and students.
So they start being entrepreneurial. They come up with deals and stuff.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. And because one person helped, I make this money, I pass some to you as well. I was like, whoa, wait a minute, what happened here? You know? And then after that, they went on and teacher and students partner up to buy something because the teacher knew that they wanted to buy this, but they didn't have enough money, right? So they approached the students that they helped in the game, right? And the students said, of course, because you know what? Proven track record, this person helped and they want to partner up with them because they were thankful and they gave money to the people who helped them. So it was like, wow, there's so much to teach here. It's not just about the money side of the financial education. And this is a story I tell all the time, you know. And so they went to partnership. So they bought the thing and then 60-40. The student got 60 because they put more money in. They got enough money for 40%. They put 40. So they every round or they split.
Wow.
It's not in the game. But
not in the textbook, not in the game.
Not in the written part of it, but you can do anything with that game. You know, and that is real. You know, so that's why it's such a hit because you learn literally all components of running businesses, even managing money, all in one fell swoop.
Relationship, managing money, negotiations. Yeah. Well, I think you really gave something quite powerful and quite profound because I think a lot of our viewers are adults and some of them have kids as well, I'm sure. What you sort of unlocked was now I'm thinking, if I want to train my people to be good at sales, right? Because I have a huge network marketing team, the way to get them to be good at sales or prospecting or calling or follow up or closing is not to read, right? It's to actually get them to do it, right? Get them to actually do it, right? To actually and the ones who can do it, they should be teaching because the more they teach, they get better at it.
Yes.
Right? So you know, education shouldn't be one way. Like, you know, one of the mistakes that even I do and a lot of people do with their teams is that they think that I have to teach the people, but rather the better way to educate is how do I create an ecosystem? How do I create a space where people are learning and growing their skills by applying, teaching, helping each other, sharing, right? Collaborating. Actually, in a way, it sounds like it's a lot easier.
Of course, it is easier, you know. I get very worried when people want to do things on their own. Because they don't want to disturb other people. But then I have a problem with that one because then if that person goes off, nobody continues with that.
I see.
Know? Or if the person stops doing it, nobody else can continue doing it. Number one. Number two is that then you're not okay. A single individual. Why I do so much group work with my students? A single individual can do so much. But when you bring the power of a group together, you can do way more than any single individual on their own can do in that group. Okay? A case in point is what we did with education. A whole group of us came together and they believed in it and they started and we got to this point where now we are going into other countries and so on, and other countries are interested. We're Malaysia, right? Who listens to Malaysia on education? You know? Yeah, but that is because a group of us came together. So we managed to do something beyond.
Outside the textbook.
Yes, outside the textbook.
Yeah. We talk a lot about subjects today about education. And then, you know, we're about to sum up. But I think I got two more questions I want to sort of ask before we close up, if you don't mind. The first question would be that if some of the parents they can't change the education system, you know, and perhaps they are dealing with the children resistant to change, want to study everything. If you're talking to, because you're a parent yourself, right? And you're talking to many parents, you talk to many parents as well, and you're passionate about children. What would be the 3 things that you would recommend them to do, in order to have their children have a better future?
Okay. Parents, if you can't get this from the school, because I get this question quite a lot.
Yeah.
And because for us, we're doing it, we have track record with it. And therefore, I can tell you definitively that it works. If you can't get it in the school, at home, you make sure that your kids' experience with education is positive with you.
At least at home.
At home, yeah. Because that alone can go a long way to getting them where they need to go. Meaning that if they are struggling with the learning and so on, it's not about making them feel lousy about it. The lousier they feel, the more they'll fight it and they can give up completely. Yeah. So it's more about, say, okay, I know you got a B. I tell parents, a B is not a bad thing, but the kids feel like they fail. B means they are keeping up with their learning. Because every exam is actually by right, you need to train up output learning skills. Yeah, you got to train it up to sit for major exams. But the regular exams in the school is just to test you what you have learned, And have they mastered it? No. So you expecting them to get an A is really unrealistic. That the pressure comes because of the expectation. When they get B, encourage it. Okay, you're on the right track. Keep doing what you're doing. But the minute they get B and they feel lousy about it, I tell you, they can't get to A. It's very hard for them to get to A because my parents are never happy with my grades. B is terrible. I feel lousy because I got to go back and tell my parents, I got a B. And they work so hard for me to get an A, but you already know the A's are stacked against the kids.
So what you're saying is to help your children associate their education with a more positive light.
Correct.
Putting pressure is a negative experience because it's like, oh, why you didn't get A, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So not that you say, oh, B. No, okay. The grades improve or you're consistent. Let's celebrate your consistency. So you need to focus. In order to do this, you got to focus on the process, not the result. The fact that your kid is consistent and doing his work and everything, focus on that and celebrate that. The more you celebrate that, the more the outcome will be very positive.
Interesting, because you're not trying to tell the children rest on your laurels and do good. It's more of like, celebrate consistency, and because you praise consistency, then they'll be more consistent.
Yes.
Right? So other than making positive education related to positivity, what other 2 things that's one thing? What other 2 things can?
The other one is how to support them, right? To support them. And so sometimes parents are like, go and study. You see your result, the past. Okay, what you need to do is actually pull them in. This is how you support them. Okay, I can see that you're struggling with some of these there must be some topics in science that you're struggling with. Why don't we go online and have a look and see what we can find out about it? So it becomes a mother-son thing, depending if it's
father-son, mother-son, father-daughter. Right?
Correct.
Yeah.
So you are seen as a support system. Let's go check it out. And let's see if there's a fun way we can find somebody who teaches it in a fun way.
Wow.
Or let's find out this science, right? How is it used? So because if you know how it is used, then you can anchor it better, knowing what it is for. Yeah. So as a parent, that's how we do it.
And the interesting thing about your approach that you're advising is that I don't have to be a subject matter expert.
Yeah.
I can just be your friend and say, hey, let's go and learn how electrolysis works, right?
Yeah.
Or how does combustion works, right? Rather than trying to... So I think a lot of parents might not teach their children because they don't know the subject, right? But now with the day and age of internet, we don't have to know. It's brilliant. Like, so what happens to you you feel like someone's behind you or backing you up, right?
And the other problem with chasing the A's and all that, and parents are freaking out that when the kids don't get, ChatGPT is coming, it's here. ChatGPT is here. And because of ChatGPT, parents are even more worried.
But now that you're saying this, then parents should be less worried because now we can use ChatGPT together to find results, right?
Yeah, that's the thing, you see, because of ChatGPT is going to take over whatever your kids know in the exams. See, that's the thing, right? So the kids actually need more skills than what they're getting from the exams. But parents are freaking out now because there's ChatGPT.
Do you think it's a good thing that AI is now more and more available for the children?
It's just a tool. Look, computer, is it for cheating?
Yeah.
We've been having computers for the longest time to help us. Calculators, is it cheating?
Not really.
Every
It's a
tool that comes along allows us not to have to do the mundane stuff and allows us to do more exciting stuff. That's all there
very
is.
nice. Yeah.
And the reason I can tell you this is 40 years of education. I have seen the countless devices that have come our way, and every type of device that comes out, parents are worried for the same reasons. But then it didn't turn out the way we worried about. You know? So,
In fact, the more we integrate, it's my opinion, the earlier we learn how to integrate with it, the more advantage a child would have in the future,
yes.
right?
But the thing right now is ChatGPT, the outcome is the same as doing exam results. So my point is exams. Why are we examining students?
So other than giving a positive association to education and being a support structure for a child,
Let me see.
what else do you think would be the last thing that you think would really make a difference for people who don't have access to, like say your school and stuff,
A lot of parents think that for the students to do well is to focus on just studying, right? If they play basketball too much, don't waste your time, go and study. They like to do art, don't waste your time, cannot make money, man. Okay, get your grades first. Play computer game, diligent, like anything, the kid play computer games. Don't waste your time. Go and study. I just want to tell parents this. Everything that you consider as a parent a waste of time for the children, they are all multi-billion, multi-trillion dollar industries that your children would want to work in. So it changes, reframes. It doesn't mean you don't control their use. No. But if you're asking them to stop doing that to study, it doesn't work. You got to tell them to stop doing it so that we can go watch a movie together. But you're asking them to replace what they enjoy with something that makes them miserable. No. Okay, that was what I did with my daughter, both my daughters, and I made sure that they have so many things to do that are fun. That the computer is not the only thing. Back then, there were no handphones yet.
Yeah.
It was the computer, right? And they had the handheld games and all that. So they never got addicted as parents worry about. But they can play or not. And the computer is in their room, And I don't have to worry because they'll be reading, they'll be doing stuff, like they like craft. Just getting them to do stuff and don't tell them it's a waste of time. Yeah, that's what you need to do. But if you tell them, don't do the computers or whatever and go and study, who wants to do that?
And you sort of take away a possibility of a career or industry that could do very well for them. Like my friend Bobby, he loves cars since he was a kid. And because now he has a great team and probably one of the biggest digital social media platform for car enthusiasts, and organizing events, etc., advertising, because he likes advertising and he loves cars. And what he does, he used to record, in the VCR tape, he told me, like all the advertisements that he liked. And then he would open up books and cut out, though this advertisement is good, here's why. And then he would analyze cars. That's why he's in the advertising and in the car industry. And even though he didn't score a lot of A's, he didn't graduate completely from university, he's doing extremely well. Probably one of the best, one of the bigger car influencers or car KOLs in Malaysia, right? Made a whole life for himself. It's a multi-billion dollar industry, multi-trillion dollar industry, car industry, right?
Yes.
So what you just said there was interesting because your children may have certain natural interests. And that could be, instead of looking at the downside, right? Look at the positive side is that they're opening themselves to the possibility of doing well in certain industries. And you got people who
Yes, I have a car story for you actually.
Okay. Oh, what's that?
Yes. And so hi Bobby. Yes, I love what you do. But the point is that I have a car story, okay? Yeah. Early days when we started our school, I had this boy that came in at Form 4, right? Year 10. And he was like considered average kid in school and he would get into trouble for being very cheeky and all that. But we love having him in our classes. He's so much fun. But one thing that he loved was cars. But his math was not strong because of how he was learning math from young, right? It didn't suit them. So he...
the traditional way of learning mathematics, like the traditional school style.
Yes. So, but he loved cars. So he shared his story today. Now that he's successful, I'll tell you how successful he is. Now that he's successful, he said it was because his teacher, which is Melinda, my sister, who taught him the sciences and the math, told him, you don't worry about your math. I will help you get through it. You just focus on, like you love cars, you focus on it, right? When he was in the college, the college learning about cars, he was already fixing up cars and selling them. He sold 500 cars, the old cars, while he was still in college.
Wow.
And at the end of the day, because he became an expert, with 70s and 60s cars, they ended up having to consult for Puspakom, for the old cars. It was very cute, and he was like less than 20 years old.
So Puspakom was consulting him for old cars.
Cars.
Wow.
And he would export bring in from Japan and bring them in here to sell to collectors, right?
Wow.
Now that boy today has his own car business where he fixes up cars and so on and so forth. His turnover is 4 million plus a year.
Wow.
He's it's been like that for the past 3-4 years, 5 years. Yes.
The enthusiast scene is growing and growing, Japanese cars especially. So he definitely did pick up a skill that landed on a lot of people that are willing to spend money with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's the main thing. But you know what? Then he told me, he said, Teacher Anne, and this week I did a video with him, and he said, Teacher Anne, tell people that I became an automotive engineer, and my math was no good.
Wow. And it's because, like what you said earlier in the podcast, that the teacher cared enough for the children, not the grades. Because the grades and the children are two different things, right?
Yeah.
So education should be for the children.
Yes.
All right. Oh, that's really powerful. Yeah. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah. Ends up together with entrepreneurship all at one go.
Yeah. We talk a lot about education today, but what's the one thing we didn't talk about that we need to talk about in education for adults, for children, in general?
Actually, it's what we've started to do. We've started to add the layers on top of education, making it real. So we started with entrepreneurship. Then we added in the environment. Yeah. So then we were ahead actually. Then people started looking into and it's what's that? The SDG? No, not the SDG. The governance, social, and GSE came up, right? ESG, sorry.
ESG.
wrong
Environmental.
order.
Yeah.
Environment, governance, and social. So ESG came about, and we started this before COVID. It was after COVID that the ESG became important. And then we started, and then one of our other schools now, three of us, is an esports education school. So the other one is a STEM school. So we are making sure that our schools, the kids are learning, there's an additional layer on top of it for them. Then we have started also doing an education for the creatives and in the entertainment, those who are interested in entertainment and creatives. So that one, because of what we're doing, a lot of people are stepping in to help us, and even from other countries. So now we have access to celebrities in the US, in China, and in Korea.
Wow.
Yeah.
Sounds like a lot of exciting times. It doesn't seem like you want to retire anytime soon.
Oh yeah, that's the difference between a job and doing, and being an entrepreneur, doing what you like. Because a lot of people get what we call success. This one, I think I'm talking about success. You're looking at career success, financial success, and everything. So people who get that, very often they want to retire. So for me, it's like, wow, you're doing something so well, but you want to retire from it because you get tired of it. Those of us who love what we're doing, we don't get tired. We just continue with it. I think that's the difference.
I think your passion energizes you. Yeah. Thanks so much for being on our show today. You're such an inspiration for education. And I know you heard this before, but say it on camera so everyone knows this, that when I see what your school does, do your maths, 3 maths, and MIT STEM, I'm very envious, because when I grew up, I didn't have that kind of education. I was the kind of kid that was really hyperactive, and I didn't have I see now that, as I'm an adult, like I need to move, I need to interact, I need to raise my hands and ask 10,000 questions, right? And that made me very good at learning, actually. And I was like thinking, why didn't I have that as a child? So thank you so much for being a part of, because it's so dangerous to sort of step out of line and tell people, hey, we could do better. And I always get this from you as you talk about education. You're not telling people are not doing good. You're sort of like telling people we can do better. We can do better and we should do better because of our children's and the future.
Yeah.
You know.
There's something I want to say here because what you described yourself, majority of kids are like you. Because when you describe it, it sounds like you are different from other kids. He's not. Thomas is actually normal. And most kids are like him. But most kids, you can suppress their energy. Your energy was too high to be suppressed.
Yeah.
You know? But what happened is that this is normal actually. Yeah. I just want to categorically put it out there because parents are saying, oh, then the school is for a certain type. No, it's because we deal with it because majority of students are this nature because active and you love to move around. And that's what it is. And we should make the education wrap around all of you.
All kinds of learning styles, including the ones that need to move around.
But majority love to move around.
Yeah.
Not the minority, just to put it out there.
Thank you so much for being on the podcast. I got a lot of value today. I even got some insights for my own business and how I'm going to deal with my people and help to improve my team and results. So thank you so much for being an inspiration for education. Thank you so much for being a person that has such a growing passion. Like it seems like when I'm talking about education, like it seems like you can't be stopped with this. Like you will keep talking to this to the very last day. So thank you so much for that. Thank you so much. And I hope everyone got value out of today's session. Thank you for being here. And let us know in the comments what you got out of it. And before we wrap up, if you want to find out more about the ACE group, and the schools that they have, the amazing schools that they have, I'll put a link in the description below. And if you're a parent, you want to visit the school, you want to come and do you have open days or?
Yes, we have open days.
Could any parent just come in and say you want to visit the school?
Anytime.
Right.
Most welcome.
You feel free to book yourself a session and take a look at it. All right. So thank you, Anne. Thank you, Mom.
Thank you, Thomas.
Thank you for being on our
great
podcast.
Job that you're doing here.
Thank you. All right. So we shall see you in another episode. Please subscribe to our channel and keep it 100 always. And peace out. If you're looking for a way to increase your income and looking for different businesses to do, I know what most of you are thinking. It's a lot of risk, it's a lot of capital involved. I don't know what to do. And that's why I created Team Infinity Academy, where we not only provide a way for people to get into the business world without forking a lot of capital, but we also provide the education and the vehicle. We have a way that I use to make my money, right? This is the business I run. And I want to teach people how to utilize my business to build a life of their dreams. Now, if you're interested to find out more, there is a preview. We're looking for the right business partners. And inside that business discovery session, you'll find out how this business can support you to build the life that you want to live. If you're interested to find out more, link in the description below. And sign up for one of our webinars will be mostly hosted by myself. See you there.